Hello and welcome to the Ridiculously Good VA Show with Tracy Daviero. If you are a virtual assistant or want to be one, this is the place to learn the tips and tricks you need to become a ridiculously good VA. I've been a part of the VA industry since 1998, and I'm excited to get to know you and help you build an amazing business. Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of the Ridiculously Good Virtual Assistant Show. I'm your host, Tracy Daviero, and today I have a very special guest, Jacki Hollywood Brown, whose virtual assistant business is productivelyorganized.com. Jacki provides boutique virtual assistant services to her clients that focus on getting them organized and getting all of their stuff in place and done. And I'm very excited to have Jacki back with us. We are going to talk today about mistakes in data and records management, turning data into usable information, privacy and security good practices or best practices, password management, and a whole lot more. So without further ado, here we go. So thank you so much, Jacki, for being here with us today. Again, a repeat podcast guest. That's actually very exciting for me. So I'm so happy that you're here to share your expertise with our audience. So thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me again, Tracy. It's always a pleasure to be on your podcast.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying the interview parts. I know it's mainly a solo podcast, but for me, this is fun, as we start to talk about the different things that some VAs can do and what you can do particularly. And so, and they're, my audience really enjoys them too. So I'm super happy to have you back. So let's just kind of get started. Tell me a little bit about where you've come from for those who don't know you already, and sort of how Productively Organized came to be to what it is today.
Okay. I started off getting a master's degree in food chemistry at university. And then I married an Army guy and we moved all over. So my career trajectory has really been a zigzag. But I compiled all of these skills. And at one point I was a professional organizer. But again, we were moving so much, and this was long before the world went totally digital. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't keep up with moving so much and keeping my client base. It was just
finding new people all the time.
Finding new people. And, we just get moved in and I get a client and then I have to turn them over to somebody else and we move again. It just wasn't working.
Yeah.
And finally, in about 2018, a few people were contacting me. Hey, do you know how to do this? Do you know how to do this? I need help with this. And I thought, why am I not getting paid for this? Mm-hmm. And I love productivity. Part of the work that I did in manufacturing was being productive, producing more, faster, more efficiently, and then being organized. So Productively Organized came into being.
I love it. And, that's the thing, right? Is that one of the things, and I know you know this, but one of the things that I try to teach VAs all the time is look at all the skills that you have. Like, don't just look at the last job that you worked at that was an admin job and say, oh, I can do, Microsoft Excel, I can do this, I can do that, because you have skills that not just make you, unique from other people, but also that you're excellent at providing. And so you can pull all the things that you know how to do and the ways you know how to do them and all that kind of thing into your VA business. And it makes like natural service offerings for you. So it's really important. And I love that you did that.
Exactly. And I just wanted to say, things that you don't think are important, like, organizing, we did an international move and we got like a week or two notice. Mm-hmm. And to be able to manage that project, I'm like, oh yeah, I just did that. And people are like, oh my God, how did you do it? I was like, everybody knows how to do this, do they not?
Exactly.
And no, they don't.
No, they don't. They really don't.
So, whatever you've done, organizing a bake sale at your kid's school, to, reaching out to all of those people in your neighborhood and knowing the best mechanic and being able to find a real estate agent that, is for your cousin that suits their personality. Just those skills, anything that you can is totally valuable in the services that you can offer as a virtual assistant.
Absolutely. And that's, those are really good examples too, because you probably had to do all of those things every time you moved, right? And I think
Yeah,
like we're all the same. The more you do, the more you can do. And I always try to bring those things into it as well. What have you done in your community, in your church, in your school, your kids' schools, in their extracurricular activities? I watch, of course, now it's hockey season, and as everybody knows, I'm a big hockey fan, but I watch all these families. Our son never played hockey, which is kind of funny. All of these families who were right in the middle of all the hockey tournaments and the this and that, they are balancing, they are organizing, they are budgeting, they're doing all of these kinds of things. And
exactly.
those are the skills that you can really draw on. So I love that. And I love that, that you can speak about it so articulately too, for sure. So what are
And
some, oh, sorry, go
even
ahead.
I just wanted to mention, like, even if you speak another language or multiple languages, there are business owners that need, like, you can access resources from other languages to
Yeah.
provide to business owners. Maybe you can help a business owner who doesn't speak the
Yeah.
language that you're in to proofread
Yeah.
their blogs and do all of their editing because you speak both languages.
That's
There's
true.
tons of stuff you can do.
Yeah, I had actually one a private client a couple of years ago that you just reminded me when you say speaking another language. She was really struggling. She went through like the small, entrepreneur business program, those kinds of things in her area, and we were working together to get a business plan done for her to try to figure out, what services she could offer. And she was just like, I don't have a lot of experience. Like I've been a stay-at-home mom, but I want to do this, and I'm smart at this and whatever. And she ended up working. She's really busy now. I can hardly talk to her anymore. She ended up one of the skills that she had, and it comes a similar experience for you, was coming to this country and all the things that you need to do and where you go and who you talk to, and like you say, language barriers and all that kind of thing. And she ended up really tapping into her own community. I think she was in the Sikh community, and she tapped into that whole community, and boom, her business was full because she
Yep,
found the need for the people with the skills that she had. And she's, like I said, I catch up with her, maybe once a year now, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I'm like, it's fabulous. That's and she loves what
absolutely.
she's doing. She's helping people, but she's also a virtual assistant. That's still her sort of role in the thing. So awesome. So tell me some, we talk a lot about well, we could talk about a million things, of course, but we want to talk about data, records management, getting organized, doing all those kinds of things in our business. And so what are some, from your experience, what are some of the mistakes that VAs can make in this area, and what kind of recommendations would you make to them to do it better, I guess?
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make, and it's not just virtual assistants,
Yeah,
it's
for
every
sure.
business
Yeah.
owner and every person, is it's the biggest lie we tell ourselves. I'll
Okay.
remember.
Which
I'll
is,
remember.
I'll,
I'll
oh, I
remember.
said, I did that. We started off this morning. I said that. I'll remember.
Exactly.
Oh
I'll
my goodness.
remember. So, whether if they don't have rules written down or policies written down, and I'm not saying, like, you have to do, an entire policy document with all of these levels and, paragraphs and all this stuff, but just a little document that says, okay, this is how I'm naming my files, whether I'm putting the
Right.
date first, whether I'm putting the name first, uh, how I'm capitalizing things, where am I storing this, what's my files, like, write it down, because
Yeah.
honest to goodness, you will not remember.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody's like, your brain should be a thinking machine, not a storage warehouse. So getting a place where you can write stuff down, whether that's Microsoft OneNote,
Yeah.
Apple Notes, Evernote, a notebook on your desk,
Yeah.
someplace where you can write it down and refer back to it.
It's so funny. I like that you said that. I just wrote that down. Your brain should be a thinking machine, not a storage facility. That's actually very brilliant. And
Yeah,
I mean, I tell people all the time that it's really important to write things down so you get it out of your head. Then that it's, that's what it is. but it frees up your brain space. And I think what you said just hits, literally the nail, or whatever, literally the nail on the head, that you have taken it out of your brain because it's not supposed to be there. You're supposed to put it someplace and then use it, right? So I
Right.
really like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
brilliant.
yeah, and not I'm going to store this on the paper notebook. I'm going to store
Yeah.
this in my OneDrive and this in Evernote. One
Hmm.
place,
Yeah.
one place for everything. And then you can go back and look for
Yeah.
what you need,
Yeah.
because that's the biggest thing. And to be able to relate that, somehow sync it with your calendar, so
Yeah.
that notes and information go to your calendar, or at least you know when you have
Right.
calendar event where to look for the information
That's
that you need
That's right.
to
Yeah.
feed
Yeah,
that
I
into
do
that
that. I
event.
do that when I'm talking to anybody, and literally, trying to get even dinner in the calendar with my uncle last night, and he said, "We're free these days." And I immediately pick up my phone and I go to my calendar and I look, I'm like, "Okay, these 2 days we're not. So we're looking at two." And I block them out in my calendar. Dinner with Phil, because then it's in there and I'm like, "Okay, I have to remember." Because I know that when I talk about a time and a date with somebody, I put it in immediately. It's just, that's my big habit. That's definitely what I do. And then, yeah, like you say, then it's there, and then know where you're going to go to get anything. And that's why I was laughing this morning when you said, "I'll remember." I didn't check when we were doing our podcast interview. That's what I was just saying, just so that, you guys will be, "What are you talking about?" And I just assumed it was Wednesday, because I don't really book a lot of things on Mondays. And as you'll find out eventually, we're booking this on a Monday. And so I don't usually book a lot of things, but this kind of thing I do like to book because it's extra and I don't have any other calls and that kind of thing. So I can take the time. And so in my head, I remembered, of course, that it was, of course it's on Wednesday. And just looked in this morning at the calendar, which again is a very good option. And I'm like, "No, it's today." So we're all set anyway. But it's true. And I really like that. I think that we always think that this is important to us, so we'll remember it, or this is easy, so we'll remember it. You talked also about naming
And you might remember
conventions.
you might
Hmm.
remember
Yeah.
parts,
Yeah.
but then you're scrambling to
Yeah.
remember the other parts,
Yeah.
or where did I put that, or whatever. So
Yeah.
to have everything in one place,
Yeah. For sure.
if you're in, and I try and tell people, like, if you're in the Microsoft environment, stay in the Microsoft environment. If
Yeah.
you're in
For
the
sure.
Google environment,
Yeah.
stay in the Google
Yeah. I'm a
environment. If
Google
you're
for sure.
Apple, stay there. Like,
Yeah.
keep everything, because it all talks to each other so
It
nicely.
does. Yeah, for sure. And you talk too about, and this is something that I find so important. So, and mention it all the time too. So you talked about naming conventions and having a way to make sure that you name things all the time. And I think that's one thing that people just do not do. I have a question for you though, because this is a thing, and we've probably talked about it before, but I had a client who named her Excel files, and we did a lot of them. There's a lot of reporting and that kind of thing. She named them with the date first, like, 2024 11, or whatever, it doesn't matter, the way, the order of the date, and then the file. And it drove me crazy, because if we had versions of things, and we did have versions, we had versions of reports, I could never sort them all by the report name itself, because it was sorting by the date. So I got to know from you, the expert, is there something that is smart, one way smarter than the other? Was she smarter than me in this? Like, I could never, I had to search for documents all the time. It was really annoying.
Yeah, it depends on how, like, it's really important to think about how you're going to think about stuff,
Yeah.
and how you're going to find stuff later.
Hmm.
So if your person's like, you're using versioning, and you're using the version, instead of, like, some people put V01,
Dashes. Oh,
V02
we
for
had
the,
that too. Oh, it was unbelievable. Her filing system was crazy.
yeah. So I would say simplify. So for example, if you're going to
Yeah.
do versioning by date, which is really simple, because then they all stack up. So you put, like, the files, like, I don't know, the Wilma Flintstone client,
Yeah.
you'd put that in its own folder, and then
Yeah.
all of your versions
Yeah.
would be by date.
Yeah.
And but if you mix the Wilma Flintstones with the Betty Rubbles, and
Yeah.
they all went by date, then you're scrambling to find which one is the most recent.
Yeah.
So, or you could put it by first name and then the date afterwards, if you're going
Yeah.
to have them all in the same folder. So
Yeah.
there's different ways to do it, and you
Yeah.
have to find what works for you and your people.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, because I
And
do
then
think
write it
that this
down
worked
and
for her. I do think
yeah,
this worked for her. I did not think in the same manner as her at all. And I
yeah.
didn't, for me, it was funny because I don't use, I put dates in my, my file names and that kind of thing, but I write them out. So it's like December 2024 or something like that. And because everybody puts month first, date first, people do things differently and it gets confusing. So yeah,
It does, and I always stick with the International Standards Organization
yeah.
date format, which is year, month, day, hours, minutes, seconds.
Biggest to
It
smallest, right? Yeah. Oh,
Yep,
I know.
biggest to
Like I say,
smallest,
that's
and
just my thing.
that's
Yeah,
yeah, and then they all line up chronologically if you need
exactly.
that.
And that,
If
like
you
I
need
say, I
that.
think for her, I think she knew when she did things. And so she was like, oh, that was November. She would go looking for something. So I left it, but I just could not decipher it most of the time. I had to use the search function all the time to find things. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I guess
Yeah,
all that to say that
and I
there are
guess
different ways to do things. And like you
yes.
said, you have to find what works for you and your people for sure. So,
Exactly, and
mhm,
that's what I mean when you're working with your clients
mhm.
and they're gonna be bringing people on, for
Yeah,
example, for most VAs, it's their most small businesses, a VA
yeah,
is their first hire.
that's right. Yeah.
So you've gotta think, "Okay, is this person growing?"
Hmm.
And if the person is growing, you have to say, "Look, nobody else thinks like you."
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
Yeah.
nobody else thinks
Hmm.
like you. We have to put a system in place that
Yeah.
people can find stuff easily and that everybody's going to think similarly.
Yeah,
So
that's a good
whether
idea
that's
too.
putting date first or name first
Yeah.
or grouping things
Folders and
into
exactly. Yeah.
folders
Yeah.
and subfolders, you can only use the search feature so much because I know what I search for in my files, but
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you what to search for in my
Yeah,
files.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
you'd have to contact me. How do I find this? How do I
Yeah.
find that?
Yeah.
Again, losing time.
Yeah. And that's the bottom line, right? Like we are, I mean, being organized or getting organized or whatever. I think getting organized is the goal is to work more efficiently. And it's because we want to save time doing retrieval of documents. It's because we want to know where things are when we need them, so that we want to put them together and we want to be able to work efficiently. The name of the game is productivity for us. And I know that I still say, we're still trade time for money with our clients. It doesn't matter how you charge, it doesn't matter anything. And so taking 8 hours to do something that doesn't need to take 8 hours is a real thing, and that it
Yeah,
comes up, and it
absolutely.
it has come up for me a lot more in the last couple of years. And I think I was talking to somebody recently, and that's exactly, they had a similar story that I had, where I had hired a VA one time for a 10-hour project, and she took 8 hours to do the setup, and we didn't have any time to do the actual work. And that was not the way I estimated it at all. And that's why I speak so much about making sure that your expectations are set and that kind of thing. But it's also, she wasn't organized at all. I don't know how she kind of did that. And I was talking to somebody recently who had a very, very similar story, and she just said, like, she took all kinds of time to do something. And oh yeah, it was a VA. I was trying to remember the story. It was a VA who was bringing on subcontractors, and the subcontractor wasn't as efficient as they should have been. And so, the client was getting billed this much money, the sub way overbilled on their time, because there was no communication about how long something should take. And so that's what we kind of talked about, was you have to set the expectation. You set it for your clients every time you give them an estimate of how long you think their budget, how long a project's going to take, or for lead times, but for budget as well, how much it's going to cost them. They want to have some idea, and you can't all of a sudden charge them 6 times more because you're not working at the proper efficiency. So yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
okay. So you talk a lot about data, getting organized, organizing people. I know that's one of the things that we talk about quite often. But you said something in a conversation that we had recently that I really think is really, really interesting. Not interesting, but very important. And so you talk about how you help your clients turning data into usable information. And that to me is just an amazing deliverable. I think that you can take what they have and create the information that they need. And so tell us a little bit about that, how that's helpful for a VA and a client, how it's helpful for you with your clients, and how it's helpful for VAs in their own businesses even. So,
Yeah, it sort of stems a little bit from my work in professional organizing.
mhm,
Because if you think you go into people's houses and they have, you know, these big, huge totes of photos.
mhm,
And, if they died and nothing's written on the back of these photos, their heirs are just going to look, I don't know who these people are.
mhm.
Out they go.
Yeah,
So why are you even bothering to keep
yeah,
this stuff if
mhm,
if you're not getting usable information from it? And it's the same with your digital data. You I had a client recently. She had 5,000 contacts in her Outlook,
mhm.
and a bunch more in spreadsheets here and there. And this was the spreadsheet from the people who, the
Yeah,
leads,
yeah,
and I said, like, what are you doing with this? And she goes, well, I can't do anything with it because I can't see
yeah.
it all. So we're in the process of getting her into a CRM, a customer relationship management system. So we can tag these people appropriately, and she can see which people in her network are referring business to her, and then she can thank them.
Right. Yeah.
Because
That's
again,
super simple. Yeah.
it is super simple. But again, this is the same as, if you don't write it down, you won't remember,
Yeah.
because
Well, if
you
you,
remember
yeah,
yeah, you remember the person who last referred business to you, but 2 years ago, you're not going to
yeah,
remember.
yeah,
So getting a whole bunch of masses of spreadsheets into a database where you can ask most of them have AI now.
yeah.
So you can ask, hey, who have I had the most email exchanges with in the
Oh,
past six
really?
months?
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah, they'll do these sorts of things. I mean, some of them are higher paid
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
levels,
Yeah.
so you limited in what you can ask in certain paid tiers, but
Hmm.
you know you can come up with all of these great things
Right.
and see where your business is coming from and who you have yet to contact and who to reach out to, and it syncs with your newsletter list and it syncs with your
Hmm.
accounting program, and it you can do stuff with it.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent example because I think a lot of people have a lot of written things. We talk about the shoebox of business cards, right? And I remember doing that for myself when I don't go to a ton of live events anymore, but I did go to one recently. And I came home and had my little stack of business cards. I think I had a dozen or something like that from this particular event. And I remember that being a real thing when I was marketing my VA business, was come home, take the information from those cards. You can pitch the cards if you want to. I always felt bad doing that, but it's like I just need the information on them, and so I don't need to keep them, even though somebody had it printed. And I had this kind of weird thing where well, I don't want to throw it out because they paid for it. And I'm like, but I took what I needed from it, and all they needed to do was give it to me. So it was so I think that that's important too. We have these paper things. Maybe we think that is the thing that's going to work, but like you say, how do you use it? How do you use the information? Not just to contact them whenever you want. You join, you get connected with their social media right away. Again, there's so many things that you can do, and then keep it all together in one place in the CRM. I like that. So,
Yeah, exactly. So even even looking at, and I'll give you an example. This past or Monday, so I guess it was last week, I got an email from this company, looked really official, saying that I had downloaded an image that was copyrighted and I had been
oh,
using it
okay.
on my blog for 3 years.
Mm,
And I looked up the company, and yes, it was indeed an official company. And I was like, okay, fine. I went back in my data and looked where I downloaded it from.
hmm.
It was still there. How much I paid for it, all of this stuff, which wasn't the company that they were
Right.
representing.
Yep.
And because I had saved all that information in a
Yeah.
database
Yeah.
spreadsheet, I could go back and look and say, hey, you guys are full of BS,
Yeah.
because I paid for this off this other site and
Right.
they own the copyright. So
Yep.
don't try and get,
You purchase the
three,
use. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, 350 euros from me because
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I had that information. And if you don't have that information,
Mhm.
then, what do you do?
Exactly. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Actually, that's one of the things that I want to ask is about privacy, security, and all of those kinds of things. And that comes into it, right? Is about doing, getting your stuff from where you're supposed to get it from, but also to your point, keeping the documentation around that too, or knowing where it is and being able to access it if something comes up, because you say that was 3 years ago.
Yep.
You want to make sure that you have that for sure. So let's talk a little bit about privacy, security, and those kinds of things. So obviously we're doing a lot of connecting with our clients and their systems and that type of thing. Can you give us any kind of insight around that about what to do? I know you can, and about how to handle that kind of thing, and what are good practices, I guess.
I think for one thing, I know a lot of VAs just starting out, maybe sharing their home computer
Oh
with
yeah.
other family members. It's really important that you have your business on a separate user
Mm-hmm.
account,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you don't want any of your family to accidentally
That's right.
see stuff or possibly delete stuff that doesn't belong to you, belongs to your client.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely you should have your own login to your own part of that computer where your
Yep.
business is, and ideally separate from your personal
Yeah.
stuff as
Yeah.
well. Uh, so that's one thing. Uh, I would also recommend that people have the screensaver that kicks in every after 2 minutes of non-use, and that when you go to reactivate it, you have to type in your password.
Okay. Yeah. Mine automatically
Because
does that. I I didn't set
yeah,
that
yeah,
up, but I do.
most
Yeah.
most settings are, but you might
Mhm.
have somebody might have disabled that on your
Yep.
computer, but
Yep.
double check, make sure that that
That's smart.
happens.
Yeah, for sure.
And another thing is that, um, have in case your computer and your phone gets into the wrong hands, have your settings so that after 5 failed password attempts, it
Hmm.
resets to factory settings.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a cat that likes to walk across your desk, you might want to change that to 10 failed password attempts,
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
you know,
That's funny.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
but get in the habit of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting actually. I had a situation this summer. Gosh, it seems doesn't I don't know. Time is flying. It's crazy. I had a situation where I lost my phone for a period of time, and I didn't know it was stolen at the time. There's a story there, but the bottom line is that I had to find it, and I knew that I had set up Find My Phone when I got it. And I had done that because right before this phone, I leased a phone for 2 years. And I was like, I need to do this. And so I set up Find My Phone, which I think comes fairly standard on Apple products, but mine's a Samsung. And so I knew I set it up because I thought I can't lose the lease because then I have to buy it. And so when I didn't found it, I didn't like leasing the phone. I was very, I didn't want to get bumped or scratched or whatever. So I bought the phone, the next one that I worked with, installed it again. So in this instance, I had to use it. And there were three options. One of them was play a sound until you find your phone, which is how I found it. The second one was lock your phone. And the third one was factory reset. And just when you said that, it reminded me of that. And I thought it's interesting that we can do these things
Yep.
sort of remotely, right? It's all about security, it's all about protection. But I knew that if I couldn't find my phone in the moment, like mine has, my fingertip and, not, it doesn't have my biometrics on it, but it's got, secure password every time you turn around, you have to enter it, because as soon as I put anything, I think it was my Google Wallet, that it said, now you have a credit card in here, because I don't do my banking on my phone or anything. So it's, now you have a credit card in here, you have to do this. And it made me, so there are things that are in place because of reasons, right? There's so many reasons why it's important to do that. And I think with our work, it's the same kind of thing. And I think that whatever securities that you can put in place for loss, theft, breaking, cats, whatever, all that kind of thing is really important. So that's an excellent tip
Absolutely.
as well. So
Absolutely.
so what else
Just
can we
just
talk about here? Yeah.
another thing, we're talking about
Hmm.
security. Um, Always carry your if you're going to carry your laptop, put it in a case
Hmm.
and carry it in a bag. put a protective case in your phone.
Yep.
Use non-spilled drinkware at your computer
Yep.
because you're going to knock that coffee over on your keyboard at some
Yep.
point.
Yep.
So just these little things are really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
You spill your coffee on your laptop keyboard. That's it. Your computer's done. You're 2 or 3 days without being
Hmm.
able to do work.
Well, that's
Even
it.
if you do get a new computer.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, back up,
Yep. I knew we were going
back
there.
up your
Yep.
data. I recommend backing up to an external hard drive.
Hmm.
Uh, I think Apple calls it Time Machine File Backup, I think is what Windows
Okay.
systems calls it.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And that will protect you. You can just take that backup out of your broken computer, plug it into the new
Yep.
one. It'll say restore from backup. You say yes,
Yeah.
puts everything back as if you've not lost any
And
time.
it's so funny because as we get started, and I know because I remember this feeling, I have backups in place because 100% I've lost data, and I've lost it by doing dumb things, and I've lost it by just hardware failure and that kind of thing. That's not my fault, but it does happen. And when we first start out, and I know the thought process around this because I still remember it. When we get going, we think, well, I don't have that much data. I don't have that much stuff. I don't have to, it's not important. We don't think of it as something that's important until we have a catastrophe. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And maybe you don't remember what you lost, but B, you certainly know that that can't happen again. And so, I tell everybody, the VAs that I teach, of course, that if you fail to get paid by a client, you will feel comfortable starting to have your clients prepay. If you have a subcontractor who spends 6 hours doing something that you thought that should have taken them an hour or 90 minutes, you will create a process that will stop that from happening in the future. And you will set that expectation. This task should take you 90 minutes. Same thing with the backup. If you have lost data, you are going to put the priority into the backup. And the thing is, these are free. So that, like, it doesn't cost you
Yeah.
anything to do this stuff, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
cost
And
of
you can get,
the external hard drive, but the
yeah. And
process.
you can get a 1 terabyte external hard
Yep.
drive for like $50.
Yep. I have one.
But
Yep.
it's just my daughter is a computer programmer, and she said there are two types of people in the world:
Hmm.
people who back up their computers and people who haven't yet had a hard drive failure.
That's it. And that's kind of exactly what I'm saying, right? You will do it when things go bad. And I mean, I didn't do it the first time. The first time I lost everything, the blue screen of death or whatever it was. Well, actually, I've done it 3 times. So here, and this was oh my goodness, I'm getting a picture of my very first home office. I reformatted my drive on my laptop because probably it was slow or something like that. And it said, "Are you sure you want to reformat this drive?" And I said, "Yes." And I cleared the whole thing. So that was my total human error, and I lost everything. And I'm like, I don't even know. Like, anyway, this was 25 years ago. The next time, blue screen of death. And I was like, oh, that's really unfortunate. Oh, well, I saved most things because I had this and that in place, whatever. Dumb, dumb, dumb. And then it happened again. And like these were like one brand of computer that just was not very good at the time. And so the third time I was smarter and ever since then it's easy. It's just easy to do. It's easy to have it. And then,
Yeah.
you can make sure
And
that you don't,
it
because once you restore once, and like you say, it's like restore from other computer. Yes. Boom. And everything comes up again. You're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do that the last time? So yeah.
exactly. And it runs in the background,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
it's so easy.
Yeah,
It's so easy.
exactly. Yeah. And it's smart
And
too. So
yeah, and then to be able to, like, say once a month
yeah.
or every 2 weeks, is to back up to an external hard drive and then take that hard drive and store it somewhere else, like
Yeah.
at your next door neighbor's house,
Yeah,
or
you say
you
that.
know
I don't do that. That's bad. But you say that, and I know I have the first person that I really knew that did kind of contracting, working outside the home and that kind of thing. I wasn't doing it at the time, as my aunt, actually the one that I'm trying to plan dinner with. And that's what she told me. She said she had a fire safe, and because she did technical writing, that was her thing. And so she worked for very large companies, doing all their manuals and that kind of thing. Very cool. And that's what she said. She said, you know, you have to have this. And she used to tell me all these things because this was new to her as well. You know, she used to work on site for a lot of
Mhm.
people. All of a sudden she was working remotely. And so she gave me all these kinds of tips about these are the things that you should be doing. And, you know, when you have to protect everybody else's data, it's not yours. And the security of
Exactly.
what if your house burns down, you know, or what if it gets stolen? Like you have to keep certain things someplace. She's like safety deposit boxes. And oh, it was really interesting conversation. Everybody has whatever they do, right? But the fire safe definitely makes a big difference too. So
Yeah. And, just simple things like installing firewalls and
yeah,
antivirus systems and running them regularly, like a
yeah,
deep,
yeah.
like a deep thing. I remember when I first started my business, I had a little cross stitch project that I had to do for a family member. And I'm like, okay, I needed to download an alphabet pattern off the
Okay.
internet. So I did that, and I'm like, I did my cross stitch thing, like, because it was just putting the name on something, sent it off. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, what's this file? Like months later, I'm like, what's this file? And it was porn.
Oh, jeez.
And it had all downloaded behind with this cross stitch
Uh-huh.
pattern. And I
Oh
was like,
my
oh
goodness.
my goodness. And I'm like, and so like, fortunately, it just downloaded these uh, inappropriate files and not a Trojan horse virus,
No
which could have
kidding.
easily happened. But I'm like, okay, that's it. And so I downloaded a program from the Apple because I'm an Apple person.
Hmm.
I store and started like so every
Yeah.
week. Like I have it running the antivirus in the background constantly, but
Yeah.
every week I do a deep scan
Yeah.
to see like are there any malicious things here
And if you do
because
download a lot of things, then that, that is important. And that's another thing too, that 100%, malware, whatever, all those kinds of things.
but
I've
it's not
had
just
those
you.
issues as well. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not just you. Goodness knows what your clients are
Yeah.
downloading onto your shared drop
That's
onto
right.
their
Yeah.
Dropbox
Yeah.
that you have access to and you're
Yeah.
pulling from.
Yeah.
So it's really important because you don't know what your clients if they even have any security.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So, you could have one of your clients' kids download a game with a virus in it that
Yeah.
gets on
And
their
not know it.
Dropbox,
Yeah,
that gets on
exactly.
your computer, and that spreads out to all your clients.
Yeah.
That's a huge liability. So
Yeah. That's for
protect
sure. Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Protect yourself.
Yeah, that's really good advice too. It's, and like I say, these things are really simple things, but they bear so much importance in talking about, especially when we're new, because, a lot of EAs don't want to sort of blow the bank to set up a ton of things. And I think it's a very low barrier to start business.
It
There's not a
is.
lot of things that you have to pay for, but there's a lot of things that you need to think about, and then think about them, and this is always my advice, is think about them as though your business is successful. What are you going to need? You were talking about it earlier. Is your client growing? And we're talking about naming conventions. So if are you growing, what are the things that you're going to need to have in place at that time, and start to work towards those now, so yeah.
Well, I just think, I talk to a lot of small business owners about this too. And I say, like, if you had a brick and mortar store
Yeah.
every night when you left, would you invest in a deadbolt to
Yeah.
close the door or would you just stick some duct tape on it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
You're
really good.
yeah, you need like this is a deadbolt.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It's
like that.
deadbolts on your doors, it's deadbolts on your windows.
Yep.
You're not just saying, okay, I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on it and hope that nobody comes in
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
and steals your stuff because it's going to be happening.
Yeah.
There are
Oh, for
people out
sure.
there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's crazy. I don't understand the whole, spamming and cloning and, malicious. I don't understand where the advantage is. I don't, that's probably another another episode for sure. But I don't understand why they do what they do. Like obviously I'm not, I don't understand the result of what they get, but it's just a hassle for all of us, and it's very difficult to get out. Actually, I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said to my message to you on Facebook, and I said, I know you're not on Facebook much anymore, but I said, I thought if you saw it, I don't have your phone number. So I said, I just sent that. And he said my Facebook was hacked a couple of years ago, and he said I can't even get in. I can't recover it. I can't do anything. I can't even delete it. He said I just don't bother anymore. And he said here's my cell number. So I got that, and I thought, that's the direct line to him now, and that's okay
Yeah.
too. So yeah. So
Yeah.
okay,
And
so
that's,
we're coming upon time now. So what else do you want us to know about you, how you work with your clients, your
I,
expertise?
I do want to talk one more thing
Okay,
that's
sure.
very,
Yeah.
very important:
Okay.
password protection.
Oh, yes, yes.
To have a password managing system, there are several. My favorite is 1Password,
Yeah,
because it's really a good, strong system, and it's shareable, and it's really inexpensive. But there's like RoboForm and
mhm,
LastPass, and
yeah,
eh, whatever you need to do to put in a password
yes.
system. And I'm like, it's less than $5 a month.
Yeah, I use RoboForm, and I would not be without it. Yeah.
It's really, really simple. And don't send things, like, don't send your credit card information, don't send your email,
No.
like passwords, nothing through
Yeah,
text, email,
yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
Send it protected.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a really, really good piece of advice as well. And again, that's what I think too, is that, we see we see the conversations in the VA groups all the time about, I'm trying to get into my client's Facebook or my client's LinkedIn or my client's this, and it's just get set up as an admin and manage your passwords properly. Like they're just really simple things to do. And sometimes, we don't do them correctly because we don't know any better, but there's a responsibility to knowing how to do things better too. And I think that's kind
Absolutely.
of what I wanted to get out of this episode with you. And I think we really have. We've touched on a lot of really important things that are pretty, we just say, you just do them. It's just very simple. There's a way to do them. There's an efficient way to do them. There's a cost effective way to do them. And it will really go a long way in, protecting all the things that you're doing on a daily basis. And
And and if you don't have some of these things in place and you make a claim in your insurance,
yeah,
you might be denied.
yep, absolutely.
You do
Yeah.
have all of these things in place, and your premiums might go down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're just good business practices anyway. And like I say, to protect yourself and the stuff that you do and all the data that you have, and also protect, your clients as well, and give them the peace of mind that, because really one of the biggest things for our clients is trust and confidentiality, and letting us peek behind the curtain of their business, which sometimes doesn't look so good. And that's a hard thing for entrepreneurs to do. So make sure that they know that you're going to be doing so securely, and all that kind of thing as well. And when you take that kind of stuff seriously and you can talk to them about it, it really goes a long way in sort of elevating your expertise in their eyes, and being able to present yourself as a really solid business person. So last things you want us to know about you, how you work with your clients, how you can help VAs, anything like that?
Well, I kind of define myself as a Jackie of all trades.
Hmm. Gee, I
And
wonder how you stretched to figure that one out. You are too. You're very good at all. Yeah.
and I support VAs choosing a niche and working in their niche. But I also wanted to tell other VAs that don't be afraid of being a generalist,
Yeah.
but be very clear about what you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I can talk about all of this security stuff, but I learned it all from the people that put it into my computer
Yeah.
and told me why I needed this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't do it for somebody, but I know where to find somebody to do it. So if
That's
you're,
right.
don't be afraid of being a generalist. Just make sure you know what you don't know,
Yeah.
and find those people to
Yeah. Be a
backfill.
resource. Yeah.
Be a
Love it.
resource. And, you know, some VAs, I've heard them say, well, I don't want my clients to know about that expert. I want to be able to do it for them. It's like, you're
Hmm.
not going to lose your job if
No.
they think you have this. Well, not if they think, if you have a network of experts, good quality, that you can call on to say,
Hmm.
hey, do this job, and some of them will even give you a good deal because
Yeah.
it's a referral.
Yeah.
Do the job, they're gone, you're still in control with your client. you've
Yeah.
still got that client and they love you because you
You're
can pull
even,
in
I was just going
somebody.
to say, you're even more valued to them then because they don't have the time. They barely have the time to send you their newsletter. They don't have time to go around and find experts on all kinds of things and try to work with them and see how they are. They'll take your recommendation 9 times out of 10. So
Yeah,
it's
and
really
if you
good to
can,
build.
yeah, and if you know what the client's like, if you say, okay, you're working with the client's website and they're like, well, I need something to compress the images, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Can you find a web person to do that? You can do all
Yeah.
that work and
Yeah.
your client just signs off.
Yeah. And the flip side of that is when you give referrals like that, I always say the surest way to get a referral is to give one first. And if you're doing that in your community, that you are, bringing in experts for your clientele and you're saying this person is really good and they're getting work, they're going to think very highly of you too, those people who are bringing, you're bringing in. So, and they can pass business your way when the need arises as well. And it's all about
Absolutely.
it's all about building, the relationships like that for those reasons, right? So I love that too. So that is awesome. So we have touched on a million things. So where can we go to learn more about you and to get some more information from you and that kind of thing?
My website, productively organized.com.
Perfect.
Really, the only social media I'm active on is LinkedIn.
Okay.
So if I'm talking over there. I did want to give anyone who's listening my free download
Mhm.
on the image tracking spreadsheet.
Oh, okay, good.
Free
Like it.
download, go to my shop, scroll
Okay.
down, pick
Perfect.
that, download it. I would suggest it's a spreadsheet. It has all the information you should be collecting about
Hmm.
your images, but to make life easy for you, convert it into a Google form. So you just go to your Google form and you
Okay.
type in all that stuff and you pick from the drop downs and it's
Oh, that sounds
really
really
easy
cool.
and then it all in there. So if I can ever figure out the time to make a Google form that goes with that
That's
spreadsheet,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll pass that along too.
Perfect.
But
Yeah.
by all means, go download it. It's a freebie.
Great.
Take it,
Awesome.
record your images
Yeah,
so you don't
definitely.
get fished.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. That's awesome. Very, very good advice. Lots of good advice today. So thank you so much for being here. I know we're stretching on time and that's okay because we have a lot of stuff that we want to share with people and I always love having you as a guest. I want to thank you for being here again. And I'm sure we'll have you on another episode coming, in the new year as well. So thanks again for doing this
Thank
and
you.
I hope you have a super day.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. Thank you very much to Jackie for joining us today. I hope you will get lots of information out of all of the wonderful advice that she shared. She is just one of the most knowledgeable people I know about all of this stuff, and she will be the expert that I bring you to you for this. So I want to thank you so much for being here with us. Go check out Jackie at productivelyorganized.com, and we have provided all her links to her website and the things that she specializes in the show notes here for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Ridiculously Good VA Show. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more great resources for your VA business, visit my website at yourvamentor.com. I'll see you back here next time.